So last time I talked about how when I bought the motorhome, I was not expecting to do almost any of this work. And that includes painting. I didn't think I was going to paint the outside of the coach. The paint didn't look too bad. It's this Imron paint, which, as everybody knows, is this amazing paint. They paint airplanes, 747 jets with it, so it survives the altitude and hailstorms and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, it requires like a heated booth. It really is like the king of all paints. Super durable stuff. Almost as good as powder coating, I would say. But I was sure that I was going to have to strip that the side, the striping, and I thought maybe I'll just paint new striping on there and everything will be good, and that'll make the motorhome look nice and new. But that's just not the case. I'm going to have to repaint the motorhome. That's becoming readily apparent, and I think you kind of figured that out in the last video. So in this video, what we're going to do is finish buttoning up the waterproofing on those upper rails outside up on top there. And yeah, I'm just working towards getting the rig painted. Now, I could paint it here in my driveway. I've gotten a large tarp from Harbor Freight, which is large enough to kind of cover it because I've got this tree that drops all kinds of debris and sap and stuff onto the rig. So I could make this tent deal here in my driveway, but I'd have to build this crazy tent just so that I could spray it in the driveway. I can't find a paint booth. There is an RV place there in eastern Portland that might be able to do it, but the place that I got a hold of in Eugene wanted $25,000. Yeah, right. There's not a chance I'm going to pay $25,000 to get the rig painted. I mean, maybe like 2 or 3, but that's about the most. So I'm doing all of the prep work, that's for sure, because I want to know that it was done correctly. So let's finish up waterproofing the rig and do a little bit more work getting it ready for paint. I'm removing the marker lights for painting, and just because I want to check the waterproofing of them, but they do seem to be, at least they were, perfectly waterproofed. I don't think that was where any of the leaks were coming from. Anyway, these lights though did leak behind the glass, or the lens, if you want to call it that, and that leak has really severely rusted the screw heads. So you can see what that looks like right there. The rest of the shank is pretty good though. So the screw heads were the big problem, and I've got all of them off except for this is the very last one, and this was the worst of them, and somehow this has completely rusted the screw head off, like it is gone. So I need to take the trusty old Dremel to it. Alright, so that just pops off like so, and we can see there's this rubber gasket which was siliconed, or I don't know, some sort of butyl caulking or something, and it did a pretty good job. Kept the water out. You can see there's really no water ingress. A little bit right there on that bolt, but now I've got the job of getting that shank out of that hole right there. I ended up drilling this out, and the drill bit sort of caught it and drilled it in there more. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try to unthread it from inside the motorhome where it protrudes. But there's currently a trim piece inside the cab blocking access to the backside of that screw at the moment, so that's going to have to wait. In the meantime, I want to get back to waterproofing the top corners of the roof here. Okay, I've got the rail temporarily installed. There's a single screw down there holding it in place, and we can see that it does not go the full length. Instead, there's these cap pieces, and this is the piece that went right there. You can see the sort of damage across the top there, where the bracket for the former awning used to sit, and that bracket drilled right through that hole there. So this end cap has been damaged. I'm going to have to plug up that hole, seal it somehow, so that's not ideal. And down at that other end, where the other end of the awning was sitting, the end cap is missing entirely. Clearly, I need a replacement part, and this is not something that is still available from the dealership. And if I had had the foresight, it would have been a very easy thing to pull off of that junked motorhome from last year. But I didn't know that I was going to need this at that point in time. And so I kind of just need to make my own version of it. And to that end, I'm here in my CAD program of choice, being Rhinoceros 3D. And you can see I've taken some photos from a couple of different angles, trying to be as orthogonal as possible. I used a 100mm lens, so my lens distortion is the least that it can be. And based on those photos, you can see I've been tracing the outlines there, and then kind of rotating. You can see the lines over here where I figured out the angles on the part, and so that is what I've come up with. So right there, looks okay. This is not my best work. I kind of just threw this together pretty quickly, actually. I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing based on how fast I was able to make this, and obviously not my best work. These lines here mean that face is not planar. So if this was I do professional industrial design work, and this would not pass muster, but it's good enough to make a mesh out of it, which is basically the STL file. So that is what we need to send to the printer. So I will open this up here in the slicer software, which is Simplify 3D, and you can just see the layers that it's going to print. And so let's send this a rough draft to my quick printer, that being my Delta printer, and we'll print up a quick version of this just to test it for fitment and see if it's going to work. And yeah, let's do that. So I use this very fast-moving Delta-style 3D printer to make my rough drafts. So I just print the parts up with this to ensure that they're going to work, that fitment is going to be acceptable, all of that. So once this is printed, it usually doesn't look as good as a final print, but it allows me to judge whether or not the part is going to work. And this is the rough draft, and that looks very nice, so that will work quite well. So let's go print up the final version. So the rough draft here was printed with PLA filament. That's a bioplastic made from corn or sugar cane, and yeah, technically it's biodegradable. It's also pretty inexpensive. In contrast, this is some carbon fiber impregnated PETG, quite expensive, and it prints very nicely, but it requires a special printer and a much slower printing speed. So you can see here, it's not moving very fast at all. And that nozzle on this printer is hardened, and it has to be because the carbon fiber, the little particulates are abrasive, and they will destroy your nozzle unless you're using a hardened nozzle. So yeah, this is going to take substantially more time to print up, but once it's done, it should be gorgeous, and it should last the life of the vehicle because PETG is a very durable plastic, and the carbon fiber makes it stiffer. Here it is, and it fits beautifully, looks really nice. So that screw hole lines up okay there. We can put it all into place. And the final thing to do here is to use some of this filler primer and just spray it all over this so that it fills in the layer lines, and then sand it smooth, and it will be ready just to mount and paint with the rest of the motorhome in place, mounted up on there. And this is what it looks like after the first coat of paint. You can still see some holes that need to be filled. So once this is fully dried here in an hour or two, I will sand this some more. And this is what it looks like after the second coat. It's almost perfect. I got a little bug that landed in it. But once I sand this, it will be completely smooth, and you'll never even know that it was 3D printed. I noticed another problem with this trim piece here. You see this rivet head, which is protruding past the line there. So that makes it so that this cannot sit flat. I'm always able to slide something in there because it's sitting at the level of that rivet head. So I'm going to use smaller rivet heads. I'm going to drill these out and put smaller rivet heads in there and hope to alleviate that problem. But this is kind of some sloppy construction on the part of the factory workers there in 1978. And that has to do with everything because they knew that they were losing their job. In 1978, they knew that this line for making these motorhomes was ending. And there's other sort of construction problems that I've found with this motorhome as well. So I think the ideal year to get on these motorhomes is in 1976, because you're not going to find things like this, problems like this. In 76, they They didn't know they were losing their job yet. They were all still in love with this awesome coach that they were building, and so the pride of workmanship was still there. But you know, 78s, they have better designs, and there's definitely some upgraded features added, but the quality of construction isn't there. Oh, thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, okay, yeah, we'll put them right there.
Okay.
Okay.
I gotta go.
This is butyl tape. You see this lower line of dirt here? That's the inside of the extrusion, the trim piece that's going over there. And so that's the inside lip that we need to clear. Well, putting this ruler along that line, we can see that that head still definitely is going to collide or obstruct the trim piece from sitting flush. They really messed this up at the factory. I can't believe a professional did this. So what I've done is I've cut the head down. You can see I cut that line straight across just so that all we have is that lower portion of the rivet head now. Hopefully it will maintain, you know, some semblance of waterproofness with the butyl caulking, the butyl tape there. But I've also taken the Dremel tool with this die grinder bit, and I've recessed the trim piece there to really give myself some clearance. And that seems to have done the trick. It's sitting completely flush there now. I can't even get my fingernail up under there. It's time to get all this paint cleaned off of the aluminum parts here. And that includes the aluminum strip here on the side of the motorhome on down to the back. So I've done some experimenting right here with the different surface treatments that I'm going to get with the different ways that I'll strip it. Starting with this wire wheel that I just got from Harbor Freight, this thing is terrible. It leaves deep grooves. You see those grooves there? So it leaves those, that's a no-go. Next, I've got this finer wire brush here. I don't know where I got this. I just kind of had it in my toolkit. And that looks like that when it's first stripped. So it's not too bad. But right above there, that patch is this stripper that is obviously mounted to my angle grinder. So the stripper actually does a really good job. It's very fast, and it doesn't damage the aluminum too badly. It leaves a slight brushed look, but it's not tragic. And with all of these options, I can hit them with some, what is this, 150 grit, I think? Yeah, 150 grit sandpaper, and it smooths it out even more. So the winner looks like the angle grinder, followed by the sandpaper, and in the crevices, like here in the gutter, in the gully, I'm going to use the wire wheel to clean that out. The flat portions here are now cleared of paint, of the Imron paint, and so they're ready to receive primer and then the final, paint coats. But this rounded section here is a lot more time-consuming to get to with the flat of the grinder with that paint stripping wheel. It's just trying to sand a round surface with a flat disc is not working well. So I could sand it, but that's just going to take way too long. So what I'm doing is I'm basically just sanding at places where the paint is chipping, like right here. And you can see that it pretty quickly strips it down to where the paint is sticking. So that's all I'm going to do through here is just get all the loose paint off so that the new coats will adhere just fine and I won't have any strange issues with the new paint. But it's not going to be completely cleared of paint like this section here. So I'm going to be using stainless steel fasteners to thread into these drilled and tapped holes in the aluminum. And if you look it up, stainless steel and aluminum are a pretty bad combination for galvanic corrosion. So in an effort to fight that, I'm using this silver Loctite anti-seize compound, and unfortunately I have this glue stick type, and this is what I have. So there may be some more liquid version of this, but I'm having to try to apply it with this paintbrush like so, because I can apply it to the bolts as I install them, but there's going to be butyl tape on top of this, so the bolts are going to be pushing through the butyl tape and then finding the threads, and I'm worried that the anti-seize will all be cleaned off of the bolt threads going through the butyl. So yeah, just trying to do this the best that I can, and this is my solution. Alright, I got the butyl tape installed the whole way down. Now I've just got to try to line up the screw holes, which have disappeared because they're hidden. So yeah, that's going to be the challenge when I put that cover plate on there. Here we go. Actually, it's not too bad. Once I got the first hole lined up, all the rest of the holes were already ready to go. They're all, they were all drilled before. I'm just putting this back the way it was. So really not too much of a challenge. Just kind of tedious. Now, the final problem is that these holes are drilled at an angle like that. So they're not perfectly straight, which means that as the bolt head tightens down, this portion is pushing harder than that portion, which is lifting the edge here. So I can still get my fingernail underneath there, which means that water is definitely going to ingress. And so as soon as the paint is dry, I'm going to come back around with some sort of a roof sealant and seal that crack. Get double protection going. That's the plan. So I've got to finish straightening out this piece of trim here for the motorhome. I love these Kinepex pliers with their parallel jaws for jobs like this. But just some more sort of finessing it back into being straight, and then I'll mount it back on the side of the rig. And this is that trim piece installed with a little bit of the paint stripped off of it. You can see it was going right here where the major Bondo repair had to happen. So this needs a little bit of final sanding, and then it will be ready for paint. All right, that will do it for this episode. I don't even know what's in store. There's just so many little jobs. I should show you guys my checklist, all the little things that I have to do to the rig. Some of them just don't lend themselves very well to being filmed. So just chipping away at it, coming out here and spending my hours. So yeah, tune in next time and we'll see what the work is to be done. Thanks for watching. See you then.